The story reaches us through letters, written by a ship's captain named Walton, whose vessel has become trapped in Arctic ice. He writes to his sister of a strange encounter, a man, nearly frozen, rescued from a sledge on the endless white expanse. The man's name is Victor Frankenstein, and he carries with him a story he feels compelled to tell, as warning, as confession, perhaps as penance. Victor was born in Geneva to a loving family in circumstances that should have led to happiness. He was curious from the beginning, drawn to questions about the nature of life itself. What animates us? What separates the living from the dead? These were not idle questions for young Victor. They were obsessions waiting to bloom.
At university in Ingolstadt, Victor discovered modern science, chemistry, anatomy, the mechanics of the body, and something shifted in him. The boundary between life and death began to seem less like a wall and more like a door that might, with the right knowledge, be opened.
For nearly 2 years, Victor labored. He grew pale, his health deteriorated. He ignored letters from home, forgot the faces of those who loved him. All that mattered was the work, the beautiful, terrible work that would prove what human ambition could achieve.
What Victor felt in that moment was not triumph. Looking upon the being he had created, seeing it move, seeing it breathe, Victor felt only one thing: revulsion. The dream, once realized, became unbearable. What had seemed beautiful in imagination was something else entirely in life.
I had worked so hard for this. I had given everything, and now that it was finished, I could not bear to look at what I had made. He fled. He wandered the streets until dawn. When he finally returned, the creature was gone. And Victor, rather than take responsibility for what he had brought into the world, chose to believe it was over. He was wrong.
Victor returned to his family in Geneva. He tried to resume his life, his studies, his friendships, his love for his adopted sister, Elizabeth. But the weight of what he had done pressed upon him, even as he refused to speak of it. He fell ill. His mind gave way to fever. Months passed. Victor recovered, slowly. He convinced himself that his creation had perished, that nature had corrected his mistake. Then word came from Geneva. His youngest brother, William, was dead. Victor rushed home, and in a flash of lightning on the road, he saw a figure he recognized. The creature was alive, and Victor understood who was responsible.
But to understand what happened, we must turn to the creature himself, for he has his own story, and it is not the story Victor imagined. The creature remembered his first moments: confusion, sensation, light and cold, and hunger. He wandered, learning as a child learns, but with no parent to guide him. He discovered fire and was burned. He sought shelter in villages and was driven away by people who saw only his appearance.
I was not born with hatred. I was born with nothing, no name, no knowledge, no understanding of why I existed or what I was meant to be.
The creature found shelter beside a cottage. Through a crack in the wall, he observed a family, an old blind man and his 2 children. He watched them for months. He learned their language. He learned to read. He came to love them, though they did not know he existed.
I thought, If only they could know my heart, they would not fear my face. The old man was blind. Perhaps he at least might accept me.
He waited for a moment when the old man was alone. He entered. He spoke gently. For a few precious minutes they conversed as equals. Then the children returned, and upon seeing him they drove him away. The creature fled into the woods, and something inside him began to change.
The creature sought out his creator. He found Victor in the mountains above Geneva. And there, among the glaciers and silence, they spoke for the first time since the night of creation.
You gave me life, and then you abandoned me. Everyone I have encountered has rejected me because of what you made me. I did not ask to exist, but I do exist, and I am utterly alone.
What do you want from me?
A companion, someone like me, who will not turn away. Make me this, and I will disappear into the wilderness. You will never see us again.
Victor agreed, or seemed to. He began the work again in a remote place with trembling hands. But as the second creation took shape, he could not continue. What might he be unleashing upon the world? In a moment of anguish, he destroyed the unfinished work. The creature had followed him. He witnessed the destruction through the window, and when he spoke, his voice was no longer pleading.
You have broken your promise. You will come to know the loneliness you have condemned me to. On the night you find happiness, you will understand.
Victor understood this as a threat against himself. He did not consider what the creature truly meant. What followed was a series of losses. Victor's closest friend was taken from him. Victor himself was briefly imprisoned, suspected of the deed. When he finally returned home and married Elizabeth, he spent his wedding night waiting for the creature to come for him. He was looking in the wrong direction. The creature had not come for Victor. When Elizabeth's cry echoed through the house and Victor reached her, it was too late. The creature had taken the only person Victor had left to love. I made him. I abandoned him. I broke my promise to him. And now he has made me as alone as he is.
Victor pursued the creature across Europe, through forests and mountains, into the frozen north. It was not justice he sought, but something darker, an end for one of them or both. The creature left signs for him to follow, leading Victor ever onward into the ice. This is how Walton's ship found him, broken, feverish, near death on the Arctic ice. Victor told his story as a warning against ambition unchecked, against creation without love. And then, his strength finally failing, Victor Frankenstein died.
Walton found the creature in Victor's cabin, weeping over the body of his creator. There was no triumph in the creature's bearing, only grief and exhaustion, and a terrible clarity.
He is gone, and I am left with nothing. I have caused suffering beyond measure, and I have suffered beyond measure. There is nothing left for me now but to end what should never have begun.
The creature left the ship and walked out onto the ice, toward the darkness of the northern horizon. Walton watched until the figure disappeared from view. What became of him, no one knows. Mary Shelley called her novel The Modern Prometheus, after the Titan who stole fire from the gods. But perhaps the deeper lesson is simpler, that to create is also to bear responsibility, and that the worst abandonment is not of a project or a dream, but of a living thing that trusted us to love it. Thank you for listening to Frankenstein.